Oh my gosh, we have all heard about the keto flu, and the way my profession, I'm a dietitian, talks about the keto flu is like we are going to have some type of seizure and die from the keto flu. In this video, I'm gonna cover embarrassing side effects of keto that nobody talks about. And yes, I've experienced some of these side effects, but I'm here, I didn't die, so we're all gonna be okay. Well, welcome back to my channel. I'm Shelly, I'm a keto dietitian. I divorced everything that I was taught in school. I didn't even want 50%, I wanted 0%. I went against my profession. I embraced a keto and anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And why, you may ask? Because that plant-based garbage we're teaching nearly killed me. You're gonna wanna watch my full story, and trust me when I say grab some Kleenex. Now, I'm ready to go over some interesting side effects that I experienced that no one talks about. And number one was that I was thirsty. Give me all the water. There's that classic scene in Spaceballs when they're walking up the mountain and they're like, water, 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 water. That was me. That's still me. I carry around a full, huge jug of water because I am thirsty. And folks will say, why does this happen? This is true, okay? So when we eat carbs, let me take you back to chemistry class. When we eat carbs, they're converted to glycogen, which the body uses for energy. Every gram of glycogen also stores 3 grams of water. So guess what, when we cut carbs out of our life, is that we reduce that intake of carbs, and as our body burns up its glycogen stores on the way to ketosis, which is what we want, i.e. the fat burning mole, it releases water it was storing. Hello, thirsty. We are super thirsty. So when we, again, to eliminate carbs and sugar from our diet, in addition, our insulin levels drop and our kidneys release the stored sodium and the water. And as the water leaves our body, we find ourselves getting thirsty. So it definitely is true. It definitely happens. And that's one of the reasons that I teach all of my clients, make sure you're carrying that water bottle with you, 16 to 24 ounces of water at each meal. Have your 16 ounces of water on your nightstand and drink it when you wake up. Drink water whenever you're driving home from work. You wanna make sure you're doing at least 72 ounces a day. I am actually up to a gallon. I'm about 128 ounces. And again, break it down throughout the day, so just not at 4 o'clock you're drinking your whole gallon of water. The next one is dry mouth. And yes, I experienced dry mouth. And y'all maybe remember back in our college days, we called it cotton mouth when we maybe had a little bit too much fun the night before. Woo-wee! Yeah, I'm a little too old for that. Let me know in the comment section if you know what cotton mouth is. Now, the process of burning fat, so let's talk about how this happens, alters the chemistry in our body, okay? So it makes sense. And we have these great glands called the salivary, somebody tell me how to say that. And it creates saliva in our mouth. Well, we get a little dry. What I encourage you not to do is chew gum. Because again, a lot of those sugar-free gums have maltitol in there, and sometimes when we chew gum, it can lead to bloat. I did a whole video about keto foods that cause bloat. The simple solution is to drink your water. Number 3 is stank breath. And stank breath, pretty intense, or metallic breath. I had more of that metallic flavor. I didn't have stinky breath. Like, I would still kiss my husband, I would hug him. I know way too much information for y'all, but this is one that dietitians love to talk about. They're like, your breath's gonna be so bad that nobody's gonna wanna be your friend. Nobody wants to be your friend, okay? Let's keep it real. This is a fact though. It can happen. Like I said, for me, it was more of a, metallic flavor in the mouth. And where does this come from? The body releases ketones. They have a bunch of big words. Another one that they release is acetone. Ketones are pretty harmless, okay? That's another thing they say, oh, ketones are so bad. Not really if you're, properly monitoring yourself. Part of that release is, again, that acetone. Sounds familiar, sounds like nail polish, And so some folks will say that, maybe their breath smelled like nail polish. I have never had a client come in and tell me that. The good news is this breath, this metallic taste or this nail polish breath is temporary. Okay, usually it'll happen. If it happens, and I can always tell for me it happens when I get really, really strict. Maybe I'll do it for a couple of days, but the odor does subside as our body adjusts to the lower carb count, okay? So it's nothing you're gonna live with for life. It's gonna be absolutely okay. So please don't, call your dentist if your breath stinks. Now, if it's something persistent, yeah, you can definitely call, but it's gonna be okay. And it's the same as the next item we talk about, which is smelly pee. Again, this is something I never experienced. The only time I always experience smelly pee is when you eat asparagus, and I just realized how mature I sound. But it's very similar to breath. We can release ketones through breath, or we can release it through going to the potty. And, they'll say like, oh, the urine may smell as a result of the ketones that are excreted from the body. Some folks will say it smelled like popcorn, and this is just through research, through reading articles, what folks will say. And again, they kind of bring up the whole nail polish remover thing. Again, this has never happened to me. I have never had a client call me and tell me this, but I understand it could happen. And what I tell folks is make sure you're drinking enough water. And again, this is temporary. So now we're gonna get into some, maybe this is true or false. And the next one is diarrhea. This can be true and false. Again, something I never experienced, but I get it. I work with a ton of clients. I've never had any client experience this. Why? Because we focus on omega-3 fat, and we do not focus on sugar alcohols in our clinic. MCT oil, which was king in 2018, 2019. I mean, you wasn't, if you didn't use MCT oil. You were looked at like this by keto folk. You don't use MCT oil? Oh my God, I put it in my coffee every day. It's how I get my fat in, boo. Y'all know I'm not the biggest fan of MCT oil. I think it tastes disgusting, and if you put it in your coffee, it kind of lines it. One of the things with MCT oil, is it a good thing for keto? Yeah, I joke about it, but it is great. It's a great fat that we can get in. But with MCT oil, it is recommended you start slowly, because the side effect of it is gastrointestinal distress or diarrhea. The trots, as I like to say. So start with it slowly, a teaspoon at a time. Sugar alcohols, we've done so many videos about how much I hate maltitol. Remember, our body cannot digest them, so they travel to the large intestines. They're metabolized by our gut bacteria, and hence we cause gas, bloating, and possibly diarrhea. So be very, very careful to do a lot of those keto products, because I really don't want you in the process of this to have to buy new drawers, because it's not gonna be a skid mark, it's gonna be a car crash in those bad boys. The next one, again, is another true or false. And your workouts are gonna kind of stink, or you're gonna have a little bit of low energy. I really didn't experience this, and again, a lot of my clients don't. Why? Because we do keto right. We made sure to keep our electrolytes right. I will say this, I live in a very hot environment, so I sweat a lot. Electrolytes are a concern for me. This is where I tell folks, make sure you're using a little bit of salt, okay? And again, this isn't for you to go and blop salt all over everything. You're not gonna turn into a salty individual. I'm super salty. But using the Redmond real salt, which is a wonderful unrefined salt, you could just sprinkle a little bit of it. I'm not a big fan of folks putting salt in their water, but I do know that you read a lot of blogs and they'll say to do that. I personally would rather folks switch to a good electrolyte drink. There's Ultima. I've had a lot of people tell me that the Redmond salt has one. I believe it's called Relight. Help me out if I'm wrong in the comment section. Those are great to have, especially when it's super hot outside. So to review, I wanna make sure that you're not, licking salt on your palm, because all of my colleagues are gonna scream at me that I'm recommending salt and killing people. By 1980s dietitian, mwah. We're not glunking it down. We are sprinkling it on our food. And the other thing that you could do is make sure you're getting enough potassium. That's why we always push the avocado. Remember, we divorced the banana. We bought in the avocado as that rich potassium source. And again, that is a great natural way to keep our electrolytes up without having to lick the salt like you're doing a shot of tequila taking us back to our college days of 1997. Now, to continue with the great way to do keto and anti-inflammatory, you can scroll in my description box. I do have a link to a menu that can get you started, so you're not gonna have some of these scary side effects that my entire colleagues talk about. You're gonna do it right, it's gonna be great, you're gonna be safe. And again, to continue to my story of how I switched over to the keto, low carb, and anti-inflammatory lifestyle, click over here, grab some Kleenex, and much love, friends. Mwah!